We get a lot of these today. JohnnyGrube, back again. I've always been physical. I've said that before many times. Like the blue labor, like the blue collar industry, and I got lucky to get in the trucking business, working on a loading dock, unloading, loading trucks. Everybody thinks, oh, it's all about forklifts. Not even the case. A lot of pallet jacking, a lot of manual hand, a lot of moving everything with hands and fucking shit like that. Forklifts, yes, but much more physical labor as far as walking, carrying, dragging, pulling, because you couldn't always get a forklift. Not every guy had a fucking forklift. So anyhow, I had a friend. I was about 18, 19 years old. I worked on a loading dock. I had just started a couple years, ago. And there was a guy that used to come in from another trucking company. We used to come in, and I used to work with him. And we'd be in there 5 or 6 hours inside this trailer. And it was a tedious job. He'd pick boxes up, and they'd have stamped stencils on them. We'd have to put them on different floats and drag them to where they needed to go. Well, he wasn't much of a physical guy to look at. He was, I think at the time, 39, 40 years old, which at the time for me was a fucking old guy. And he was 6 foot maybe, 180 pounds, no muscle that you could really see. Had big hands. And at the trucking company we worked at, it was called Overnight Transportation, actually. A lot of physical guys on there. A lot of guys were always competing in strength and wrestling matches. And we had football games. We'd close down on Friday nights. We'd have fucking street hockey on the dock. Always a place to fucking, for competitiveness. Arm wrestling was a big fucking one. Tons of dudes, strong guys, fucking weightlifters, criminals from all fucking backgrounds. And we'd fucking arm wrestle. And, we'd do it on 55-gallon drums or pallets, whatever the fuck we could put our fucking arms on and fucking go. Now, a lot of people will say, because everybody's fucking so educated, that arm wrestling is nothing but technique. Well, there is some technique, but let me tell you something. There's a lot of fucking strength. A lot of strength that most people will never fucking understand. Now, this guy, Tom, shout out to Tom, one time we were having arm wrestling matches, and I had no idea whether he ever arm wrestled or not. I know he didn't lift weights. I know I was way stronger than he was in the gym by a fucking ton. And he says, hey man, you think I can get in there? I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm thinking I'm going to slam. At the time, I thought 40 was an old man. I'm going to slam this fucking guy. Well, we set up. He locked. His hands were fucking big. And this wasn't arm wrestling rules, so I'm holding on the fucking chime of the fucking drum, and we're like, go. And I go, and his fucking arm does not move. I mean, I'm fucking thinking, holy fuck, I try. And he just proceeds to fucking take my arm down like I would take my 8-year-old grandson's arm down. No shit. I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely fucking amazed. First time I ever experienced anything like that, anybody ever slamming me in an arm wrestle match. Any match I've ever been in, I was fucking, I would give a good fight or I'd win most. I had a way better win-loss record than I had a loss record. So, everybody else seen this. Big guys, fucking guys that were good arm wrestlers. And they all, right after one another. And this guy fucking Tom just fucking put every fucking arm down. Just that fucking easy. I said, dude, what the fuck are you, a ringer? He goes, no, I never arm wrestled other than bars and stuff like that. Eventually, I talked about why don't he arm wrestle, and he wound up going into arm wrestling competitions. And he'd enter 4 different weight classes and bring home 4 different trophies, including left-handed. And all he ever did after that type of training was arm wrestle and do some grip work. I mean, he already had fucking great fucking strength, and he could hit like a fucking truck. Big fucking hands. Man, I was hit by him. He hurts. That fucking guy, I wouldn't shake his hand. He hurt fucking so much. And he was one of those guys where they say, oh, you shake your hand, he'll fucking crush it. I'm telling you, he hurt your fucking hand no matter what. He'd fucking crush it. So it was like, hey, what's going on? I pat him on the shoulder. I wasn't shaking his fucking hand anymore. And here's a guy that never fucking lifted weights outside of his physical labor that he did. Say whatever you want. People say that's impossible. It never happened. I watched him. I seen him arm wrestle in competition. I seen him lose 1 match. I only seen him lose 1 match, and he came back and beat that guy the second fucking round. I watched him beat a guy who had at least 22-inch arms. He used a fucking knee sleeve for his elbow. And fucking Tom beat him. And he fucking lost his mind. I seen this. This is not a made-up story. But, of course, 35-year-olds or younger, or even guys, oh, I have a friend, that's impossible. He's so strong, he could beat any fucking body. I've never seen anything like that. Again, just because you've never seen it. Anybody ever heard the story about Roger Bannister? It's every fucking place. Nobody ever thought you could run the fucking 4-minute mile. He figured out. He ran the 4-minute mile. They said it was impossible. Right after Roger Bannister ran the 4-minute mile, I think 100 people right after that ran under 4 fucking minutes. Okay? Just because you've never seen it or never witnessed it or never been around hard men, you don't have a fucking clue.